Good morning. Thank you for doing an interview with us, Miss Claudia Grace.
Good morning.
You are one of our outgoing elders. So I guess my first question for you is what made you say yes to being on session?
Well, before I delve into that, first of all, I wanted to start by thanking you for inviting me to do this and thanking you and Jenny for everything that you have done to keep us not just afloat, but to move us ahead over the last months. I also want to make sure we thank Kathy for her incredible work to keep everything aligned and be attentive to us. I can't imagine what we would do without her. Second, I wanted to thank the congregation for trusting me with the responsibility to be a deacon, a Stephen leader, a committee chair, an annoyance, and all the things that they've, put up with over the last 20 years as I've been a member of Covenant. And I also want to thank the members of the session because as the clerk of the session, it's important to keep track of what people are voting on, what people are thinking about, how we are recording our efforts and our decision making. And as a member of the session, that was always very exciting to me. I have loved learning about how the church works and how the church relates to the larger Presbyterian world. But what I have most enjoyed is being in the room with the other 11 members of the session and the moderators and learning about them and how they work and how they think in the incredible care that they take of the church's resources, the church's people, and the work that they do to help us all and each become more faithful in our decision making and to reflect the real work of the community of God in the work that we've been asked to do. So being a member of the session has been, I took it as a real honor. When I was asked, I really didn't think that I was qualified to be a member of the session. I didn't think I had the knowledge or met up to the high criteria and the trust that people put in me. So that was a real challenge at first. And I'm extremely honored that I've had that opportunity. And I'm sad to leave. I've learned a lot from the session and mostly from the people. So.
But you're not totally leaving, right? Because you'll continue to be the clerk. So,
which means I have to be quiet, which ought to be a real challenge.
I think we call that clerk's privilege.
Oh, good. I'm good to know there's some in there somewhere.
Okay, so backing up a little bit, what brought you to Covenant in the first place?
Well, it's really kind of a funny story. I walked out of my front door one day and I was getting a new neighbor. And the new neighbor walked around the corner with her little girl. And at the time, her little girl was probably about 1.5 and my little boy was about 3. And her little girl was incredibly verbal and my little boy was still kind of in the duh, what's up stage. And my new neighbor was Mary Steege. And so my early parenting time was spent a lot with Mary. And I did come to Covenant on occasion, but it was really in the late 90s when there were some real dramatic changes and sorrows in my life. My father and father-in-law both died. My husband and I separated. Jeff was diagnosed with some real disabling health conditions. And I found myself very lonely and drawn into Covenant. And like the stories the other elders have told you, I knew I needed to be somewhere. I walked in and I knew that Covenant was exactly where I needed to be and who I needed, the people that I needed to be with. The acceptance for me, the support, the acceptance of Jeff, the help to raise him with a faith foundation just made an incredible difference for me. And so like the others, I walked in and I never walked back out. So
nice. Lucky us. What's one of your favorite memories from your time at Covenant?
Um, the angel Christmas tree every year with Michael um, has been a real joy. The time that I spend with Michael has been a real treat, and there's nobody really like Michael Klickner. And putting those angels up and picking them out family by family and looking at the angels that the children have made in Sunday school and the things people have joyfully and willingly shared with that piece. And as I would say to Leo, hark, listen, look, what joy we have to be celebrating at this particular time. The joy of being in the Sunday school classroom with children who were at one time 3 and who are now confirmed members of the church, or married with their own children is really stuns me every time I see them as adults, because to me they're still 3 and 4 and 5. So Covenant is a very memory filled place with me. It resonates with the people and their lives and their stories. I think the other things for me are the adult spiritual growth opportunities. And we have all laughed because I said I thought by the time I was my age, I would be fully cooked, done, ready to go, wouldn't have to learn another thing. And I have probably found this to be one of the most challenging parts of my life, where I have been open to more, learned more, felt more committed to the need for social justice, for change, for learning and growth, probably than I have felt since my early 20s. So it seems odd that life comes full circle in that way. So.
Mm-hmm. And you've been teaching our confirmation class most recently, and the kids getting ready for confirmation. What's one thing that you've learned from doing that?
Well, I had to really learn quite a bit more about the Bible because, to be very honest, part of being a teacher or a trainer or anything like that is the secret. And part of being the trainer for the Stephen leaders is that you learn an awful lot more than you could ever teach. And so what I learned from my confirmation process was that if I kept really quiet and just asked the questions and let them teach themselves and each other, they learned a lot more and I learned a lot more too. And we each struggled through our own periods of growth. So I had to be very honest with them and tell them I really didn't know any more than they did, and that we would learn together, and not an authority in any way, shape, or form. So.
And what drew you to Stephen ministry? Because that is a huge role that you've taken on.
That's kind of a funny story. When the Stephen ministry started and the first leaders went to be trained and came back, they started a recruitment process for Stephen ministers. And there were flyers in the pews and in the Sunday bulletin. And Jeff and I were sitting, I think we were up in the balcony. We usually sat in the balcony, or we sat right behind Jack and Chris Smith. So we had two kind of special seats. And if we were really lucky, we could sneak into the Hungarian pews with the Bageses and the Bossis. And Jeff pulled the flyer out and he said, Mom, this is something you should do. And I said, well, maybe someday, but, right now we're really busy and, we need to, we have work and we have, things we need to keep up with. And he said, no, Mom, this is something you should really do. And if you want to do this, I'll help you do that. I think he was probably 11. And he said, you need to do this. And so I did. So.
And what do you see as the value of Stephen ministry?
They give an ongoing relationship for a person who's going through some transition, loss, grief, change, loss of job, any kind of a bump in the road. They bring a weekly listening ear, and they walk in partnership with God to bring the voice of God into a place where someone may not be able to hear that. So the value is that ongoing relationship. The relationships could last anywhere from 6 weeks to multiple years. It's really an interim step that gives that that care for a person that's free of any commitment, charge, expectation. The expectation is all on the care receiver, that they'll move at their pace. The Stephen minister's not there to provide options or solutions, but to listen and care. That's it.
Yes. Or how do you hear God speaking? And what do you hear God saying?
I hear two voices, and there's one thing Jenny taught me and one thing you taught me. So I have listened for a long time, and I found that it's really important for me to be still and know that I am not God. And in the last few months, when I've been faced with some decisions for family, it's been important for me to sit back and realize that the decisions are not mine, and that I'm just there to support them. And family can be really complicated, as we all know. The other voice that I hear when I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to pull it off, Sarah, is your voice that says, "All will be well, all will be well, all will be well." When I am at a place where I'm confronted by things that seem overwhelming, I pull myself over to my chair, I get out my needle and my thread. I start to stitch something that's important to me or not. And in the routine of that stitching, I hear those voices remind me that I need to be still. I need to listen, and I need to know that everything will be as it should be. Then I often laugh and think of Leo Bloomfield, and I think, hark, listening is not just something I should tell other people to do, but something I need to do as well. So.
Nice. Okay, last question. What is your hope for Covenant going into the future?
Well, I think, as everybody, I long to be back in a place, back into the physical space with the people that I really hold dear. And I will laugh and tell you that the thing for me that makes me laugh the most is I'm so used to the back of everyone's heads that being on Zoom, seeing everybody's faces is kind of a treat. And so when we worship and can see everyone's faces, that's really kind of amazing to me. The thing that I've learned during this pandemic closing down period is how much I really value everyone. I think I've gotten to know people better, actually, in this period of time than I did before. More time for coffee, more time for Bible study, more time for Advent study, women's breakfast, the fellowship and fiber group. And my hope for Covenant is that as we go forward, our new website and our new welcome statement really reflect the way we take care of one another, and the way we welcome those who may be strangers to us, new to us, or people that we didn't really know as well before. And of course, we all laugh because I look forward to going back and eating all those wonderful things that we've joyed in eating and sharing, the breaking, not just of bread during communion, but with one another at events, at Second Sunday coffees, and having the children run around and bump into your legs and watch just the joy that they radiate and they bring to all of us. So my hope for Covenant is that we not only be who we were, but that we remember how valuable it is to be who we authentically are and do what we say we're committed to doing.
Which fortunately includes eating cake.
Eating cake.
Eating cake.
And pretzels. And
pretzels.
Egg salad.
But pretzels aren't in the welcome statement, so.
But they're close.
Well, thank you for doing this with me. I really appreciate it. It's fun to get to know you a little bit more and hear some stories.
Thank you.